All right, so you've got this interview coming up, right, for a soap chipper position. It's exciting stuff. And you might be thinking, soap chipping. Okay, seems pretty straightforward. But trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye, and we're here to make sure you absolutely crush that interview.
You got it. We're going to really dig into what a soap chipper actually does every single day, the skills you need to really stand out, and of course, we'll tackle some of those classic interview questions, the ones that can sometimes be a little tricky.
Oh, absolutely. And just a heads up, as we go through this deep dive, we'll be pointing out how RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon in all of this. It's like having an AI career coach right there with you, helping you craft the perfect answers so you can land that job.
Exactly. It's all about taking those nerves and turning them into pure confidence. So let's jump right in with a question that often pops up pretty early in the interview. What motivated you to pursue a career as a soap chipper? Sounds simple enough, but it's your chance to make a really strong first impression.
Yeah, this is where you really show them you're not just looking for any job, you're genuinely interested in the world of soap.
Exactly. I need a job just isn't going to cut it here. You need to dig a little deeper. Think about what sparked your interest in the first place. Have you always been fascinated by how things are made, like that whole manufacturing process? Or maybe a tour of a soap factory piqued your interest?
You know, I was actually reading an example profile on RoleCatcher about a soap chipper who got their start as a dishwasher in a soap factory, of all places. They were just fascinated by how the soap chips were made, so they started asking questions. And, well, the rest is history, as they say.
I love that. Sharing a personal anecdote like that, even if it's something small, makes your answer so much more memorable. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer. Picture this. You type out your answer, and the AI actually analyzes it, gives you suggestions on how to make it even better, more compelling, and tailored to that specific company you're interviewing with. Pretty cool, right?
That's incredible. Okay, so let's say you've aced that first question. Be prepared for a follow-up. They might dig a little deeper into the technical side of things with something like, how do you ensure those soap chips are consistently high quality? This is where your knowledge of how soap is actually made can really shine.
Remember those core abilities they list in the Soap Chipper Career Guide on RoleCatcher. This question is all about that operations monitoring skill.
So it's not enough to just say, I'm a stickler for details.
Right.
You have to actually connect it back to the job itself.
Exactly. Talk about your experience monitoring equipment, like how you pay super close attention to those gauges and just generally make sure everything is running smoothly. For instance, you could say, in my previous role, I was responsible for monitoring both the temperature and pressure gauges to make absolutely sure the product met those specific quality standards. See how that ties your experience directly to that core skill.
Oh, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. And speaking of those core abilities, the career guide also mentions troubleshooting, which leads us right into our next question. How do you deal with those unexpected variations in raw materials? This one really puts your problem-solving skills to the test.
For sure. Let's say the moisture content of that soap base is a bit off. You can't just throw in the towel, right? Walk the interviewer through your process. What steps would you take to figure out what's going on? How would you adjust the machinery or even the entire process to make up for that variation?
It's like you're some kind of soap detective. You got to find the culprit and bring harmony back to the soap-making universe.
Exactly. You've got to keep that soap production line rolling. So we've covered some really important questions about what motivates you, how you ensure quality control, and your approach to time management. But now let's dive into some questions that really get to the heart of being a soap chipper, the hands-on stuff.
Exactly, because when it comes down to it, it's about what you can actually do, not just what you say you can do, right?
You got it. And one question you'll probably hear is, what's your experience with operating and maintaining soap-making equipment?
This is where those core abilities from the RoleCatcher Career Guide really come in handy, especially those operations monitoring and operation and control skills. But this time, they're looking for specifics.
Exactly. Don't just say you're familiar with the equipment. If you've worked with a specific type of soap chipping machine, tell them. What was it called? And were you responsible for any of the regular maintenance, like cleaning it or swapping out parts? Those details matter.
Absolutely. And hey, if you don't have a ton of direct experience, don't sweat it. You can always talk about any relevant training you've had,
Right.
or even just your eagerness to learn new equipment quickly. Enthusiasm goes a long way in those situations.
For sure. Okay, shifting gears just a bit, let's talk regulations for a second. Interviewers want to know that you understand just how important safety and compliance are in a manufacturing environment. So be ready for this question. How do you ensure that entire soap-making process meets all those regulatory requirements?
Right, because this isn't about what your favorite soap scent is or anything. It's about knowing the rules of the game and proving you're not going to cut any corners.
Exactly. This is where you highlight how meticulous you are in following procedures. Maybe you have a whole system for double-checking your work or keeping those records perfectly accurate. Share those things.
This actually reminds me of that section in RoleCatcher's interview guide about safety and compliance.
Yeah.
They've got some really great tips in there about how to handle those kinds of questions.
Totally agree. They do a great job with that. Okay, let's move on to another question that tends to trip people up. How do you identify and then troubleshoot issues in that soap-making process? This is another one that really puts your problem-solving skills front and center.
It's like you're a soap chipping detective all over again, but this time the case is a bit more complex.
Exactly. So instead of focusing on unexpected ingredients, this question is all about spotting those issues within the whole production process, like the big picture. They really want to see that you can analyze what's happening, think critically, and come up with solutions.
Let's say those soap chips are coming out kind of uneven. What do? Do you check the blades? What about the feed rate? Maybe the soap base itself isn't consistent. This is where you show them you can get to the root of the problem.
Yes. And don't be afraid to talk about a time when you successfully troubleshooted a problem at a previous job, even if it wasn't directly related to soap. The key here is really just demonstrating your thought process and how you can apply your skills in different situations.
Absolutely. And again, this is another area where practicing your answers with RoleCatcher's AI can really give you an edge. You'll get personalized feedback on how to structure your response and highlight those skills that'll impress the hiring manager.
It's like having your own personal interview coach, but without that awkward small talk. All right, let's tackle another question that's all about efficiency. How do you make sure those soap chips are produced efficiently? This one's all about optimization and how well you understand that production flow.
Time is money, right. And in the world of soap chipping, efficiency is king or queen.
Exactly. So, do you have a knack for streamlining workflows? What about minimizing waste or fine-tuning those machine settings? Have you implemented any cool process improvements in the past? This is your time to brag a little.
I was actually reading through RoleCatcher's industry trends section the other day, and it seems like automation is becoming a pretty big deal in the soap making industry. That's definitely something worth bringing up, especially if you have any experience with automated systems.
100%. Showing them you're adaptable and excited about new technology is a huge plus. Okay, let's shift gears again to a question that's all about, well, the customer. How do you ensure that the soap chips actually meet those customer requirements?
Because at the end of the day, those perfectly chipped soap flakes are going to end up with a customer who's hopefully going to be happy.
Exactly. This question is all about gauging your customer focus and whether you're truly dedicated to a quality product.
It's not just about running the machines, right? It's about seeing the bigger picture and understanding how your piece of the puzzle contributes to the company's overall success.
Exactly. This is where you want to highlight how committed you are to meeting and even exceeding those expectations. Maybe you have a system for double-checking your work, or you're always asking for feedback to make sure you're on the right track. The key is to show them you're not just churning out soap chips. You're crafting an experience for that end user.
And this is where those so-called soft skills really come into play. Attention to detail, communication, problem solving, those all contribute to a satisfied customer.
For sure. All right, let's tackle one last question before we wrap up this section. How do you stay up to date with the latest and greatest in the soap making industry? All those trends and best practices.
Love this question. This is your chance to show them you're in it for the long haul, that you're passionate about what you do and always striving to improve.
It's all about that continuous learning, right? So do you read industry publications? What about conferences or webinars? Are you part of any professional organizations? This is where you share your secrets for staying in the loop and keeping those skills sharp.
And hey, if you're not sure where to even begin, RoleCatcher's got you covered. Their career guides are absolutely packed with info on industry trends, those emerging technologies, best practices. It's like having a cheat sheet for your entire career.
It's the best kind of cheat sheet. And they even have a whole section just for soap chippers on professional development resources, things like online courses and certifications.
All right, we are back for the home stretch of our soap chipping interview prep. You are doing great. Just hang in there. We're almost at the finish line.
You got it. Almost there. And listen, by now, you're absolutely loaded with strategies to tackle those interview questions. But it's not just about what you say, right? It's how you say it.
Oh, 100%. Confidence is key.
You got it. Confidence is key. So let's shift gears just a bit and talk about some of those curveball questions that might come up.
Okay, like what? Give me the curveballs. I'm ready.
All right. Well, one that's pretty common, even for entry-level positions, is what's your preferred management style?
Wait, really? I thought that was only for, like, management roles.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. It comes up more often than you think, because even if you're not applying to be a manager right now, it gives them a sense of your work style, how you like to collaborate, that kind of thing.
That makes sense. So how do you even answer that authentically without, like, overthinking it too much?
Honestly, just be honest. Think back to managers you've had in the past. What worked well? What didn't work well? Did you prefer having those clear expectations, regular feedback, or were you more into that hands-off approach?
Yeah, yeah. And don't be afraid to tie it back to those core abilities we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Like if you're really good at troubleshooting and operation and control, maybe you could say something like, I really value a manager who empowers their team to, take ownership and solve problems independently.
Perfect example. See? You've got this. Now, here's another one that often throws people off. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
The dreaded 5-year plan. Feels like a trap.
It doesn't have to be, honestly. You don't need to have this perfectly mapped out plan or anything. Just focus on your skills, what you're interested in, your ideal career path, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so instead of saying, like, I want to be the CEO of a soap empire,
Right, exactly.
you could see something like, in 5 years, I see myself as this, highly skilled soap chipper, someone who's continuing to learn and grow in a company that really values quality and innovation, that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. You're showing them you're ambitious without boxing yourself in. And this is where RoleCatcher's career stages section can be really useful. It actually maps out those potential career paths for soap chippers. So it gives you some ideas, maybe some language to use when you're talking about your future goals.
Oh, that's helpful. Okay, last but not least, the interview question. That's actually a golden opportunity. Do you have any questions for us?
Yes. This is your chance to flip the script and show them you are truly engaged and interested.
So what kind of questions should you ask? Don't hold back.
All right. Well, you could ask about the company culture, the team dynamics, what opportunities they have for professional development. You can even ask about their vision for the future. And remember, the more specific your questions, the better.
Okay, so what do you enjoy most about working here? Or maybe, what are some of the biggest challenges and rewards of this role?
Exactly. See, you're not just interviewing for a job anymore, right? You're interviewing them to see if they're the right fit for you. And hey, guess what? RoleCatcher can even help you come up with some really insightful questions tailored to that specific company and position you're going for.
It really is like having a whole team of career coaches in your corner.
That's RoleCatcher, always there to help you put your best foot forward.
Well, there you have it. We've reached the end of our soap chipping interview deep dive. We covered it all, from crafting those compelling answers to showcasing your skills and experience, and even how to navigate those tricky curveball questions.
And remember, practice makes perfect. Use those amazing RoleCatcher tools, rehearse your answers, and just visualize yourself rocking that interview.
You got this. We are rooting for you. And hey, who knows, maybe someday you'll be the one sitting in the interviewer's chair, sharing your soap chipping wisdom with the next generation of soap enthusiasts.